The sky above Zyphorus 7 was an oil-slick swirl of purples and greens, a cosmic lava lamp that pulsed with every passing starship. Kellen ducked behind a shattered transport hull, plasma fire whizzing overhead like demented fireflies. He'd spent the last 3 hours navigating the labyrinthine jungle, tripping over roots that looked suspiciously like alien intestines and narrowly avoiding death by enthusiastic carnivorous plants. It was the kind of place that made a man question his life choices and his diet. Couldn't they have picked a nicer planet to hold a princess hostage? He muttered, checking the charge on his pulse rifle. The screen blinked red, a sure sign that fate had a sense of humor. His comm crackled. Kellen, do you have the target? Command sounded as bored as a tax auditor at a bar mitzvah. Target secured, he said, though it wasn't entirely true. He'd found her cowering under a collapsed comms tower, her silver skin streaked with dirt, eyes wide as a moonbug's. She was no taller than his waist, all spindly limbs and iridescent hair that changed colors with every blink. She'd taken one look at him, let out a squeak, and latched onto his leg like a stubborn remora. Target's a bit clingy, he added. Get her to the extraction point. And Kellen, try not to insult the entire Zephyran monarchy this time. He glanced down at the girl. Guess it's just you and me, kiddo, he sighed, lifting her gently. She weighed less than a duffel bag, and every time he shifted her position, she emitted a tiny squeal like a broken synthwave generator. He stifled a laugh, then realized she was trembling. Hey, it's okay, he whispered. I'm not gonna let anything happen to you. I'm like the galaxy's worst babysitter, but I've got a decent survival record. He tried for a reassuring grin, but it probably looked more like a dental ad. A plasma bolt sizzled into a nearby tree, sending a burst of sparks that lit the canopy like a holiday festival gone wrong. The girl whimpered, and Kellen tightened his grip. He ran, weaving between roots and vines that hissed with alien life, his boots sinking into mud that smelled suspiciously like decayed starfish. His legs ached, but the adrenaline kept him moving. He could practically taste the extraction point now, a clearing marked by a battered Alliance beacon that blinked like a desperate strobe. Almost there, he huffed, and then we can get you back to your queen. And maybe, just maybe, I can get a decent meal that doesn't taste like reheated fungus. The girl's eyes shifted from pale blue to bright yellow. He wasn't sure if that meant happiness or impending doom. What's your name anyway, he asked. Or do you just communicate through interpretive color dancing? She stared at him for a moment, then emitted a series of high-pitched clicks and chirps that would have made a star whale proud. Kellen blinked. Right. Let's call you Princess Squeaks. That work for you? Her eyes shifted to a warm green, and he took that as a yes. They broke through the last of the undergrowth and into the clearing. The extraction craft hovered like a giant insect, its engines thrumming a low, bassy beat that rattled his teeth. Kellen waved, one hand holding tight to his new alien cargo. A blast from behind sent a shockwave through the clearing, toppling him like a sack of maintenance droids. He rolled, shielding the princess with his body as debris rained around them. He risked a glance back at the jungle. Something big, something very big, was moving through the trees, glowing eyes peering from the darkness like molten coals. Kellen sighed. Figures. I can't even get 5 minutes without a cosmic monster crash-landing my day. He looked down at Princess Squeaks. All right, kiddo. Looks like babysitting just got an upgrade. The Alliance base on Zyphorus 7 looked like it had been slapped together by a committee of half-drunk engineers. Panels hung at odd angles, cables snaked across the floor like the world's worst bowl of noodles, and the air smelled faintly of burnt ozone and desperation. Kellen trudged through the main corridor, Princess Squeaks perched on his hip like an overgrown pet lizard. Her eyes blinked in a rhythm that could have been a distress call or a dance beat. Hard to tell with aliens. Listen, he said, trying not to trip over a suspiciously wobbly section of flooring. I'm just the delivery guy. I saved the day, carried you through the jungle, dodged enough plasma bolts to qualify as a circus act. I'd like a shower, a hot meal, and maybe a stiff drink. Preferably not in that order. He grinned down at her. Think you can put in a good word with your mom? She blinked orange, then green. He decided that was either approval or a polite Zephyran way of saying, get lost, human. A pair of Alliance guards saluted, their expressions somewhere between impressed and suspicious. One of them, a lanky guy with a nose that looked like it had lost a fight with a plasma cutter, raised an eyebrow. So that's the Queen's kid? She's small. Kellen shrugged. Yeah, well, good things come in small packages. Or in this case, packages that squeak like a malfunctioning hoverbike. The guard cracked a grin. You gonna get a medal for this? Kellen snorted. Knowing my luck, probably a fruit basket. If I'm lucky, they'll forget I exist. He passed the guards and entered the command center, which was a fancy name for a room full of flickering screens, stressed-out officers, and enough blinking lights to make a star cruiser's dashboard blush. A dozen species milled about, humans, reptilians, a couple of amorphous blobs that looked like escaped lab experiments. Commander Drake loomed over a holotable, his uniform rumpled like he'd slept in it, probably because he had. He looked up, eyes narrowing. Kellen, he barked. Report. Kellen straightened, shifting Princess Squeaks to his other hip. Mission accomplished. VIP delivered. He jerked a thumb at the girl. She's a real charmer, too. Blinked at me a lot. Might be a universal greeting. Or a threat. Hard to tell. Drake pinched the bridge of his nose. And the hostiles? Mostly dead. Some probably cursing my name from the afterlife. Jungle's got a higher body count than a meat grinder. He smirked. Oh, and there's a minor problem with something big and glowing in the trees, but hey, details, Drake sighed. We'll send a team. Now get her ready for transport. The Queen's coming herself. Kellen's grin faltered. The Queen's coming here? As in, the galactic ruler of a species known for melting enemies with a single look? Drake leveled a stare at him that could have curdled engine coolant. Yes, the Queen. As in, don't screw this up. Kellen exhaled. Got it. No screwing up. I'll just stand here looking heroic. He tried to salute but nearly dropped Princess Squeaks in the process. She squealed, her eyes flashing red. Okay, calm down, he muttered. We'll get through this together. Outside, engines whined. A descending star cruiser, its hull reflecting the jungle's acidic hues. Kellen's stomach knotted like a malfunctioning tanglevine. Great, just what I needed. Royalty with a front row seat to my greatest hits, he smirked. Hope they brought popcorn. The star cruiser door hissed open with a theatrical sigh, and the Queen of Zephyra emerged like a living sculpture. Her ceremonial headdress bristled with shimmering tendrils that danced with the ambient light, giving her the appearance of a cosmic jellyfish with an attitude. Kellen had seen some strange things in his time, like the three-headed barista on Rigel Prime who served espresso with a side of existential dread. But this topped them all. She swept forward with all the subtlety of a meteor shower, her eyes locking on Princess Squeaks, who, to her credit, didn't squeak. Yet. Kellen stood awkwardly, half expecting a holographic scroll to unfurl with a fanfare of celestial trumpets. Instead, the Queen's voice boomed with the kind of resonance that rattled your bones and tickled your spleen. You have saved my daughter, she declared, every syllable polished like a ceremonial dagger. By the ancient laws of Zephyra, you have earned the right of kinship. Kellen blinked. Right of kinship. That's, nice? He glanced around, hoping for a translation app or at least a helpful sign in Galactic Basic. Does that come with a free meal? A commemorative t-shirt, maybe? Princess Squeaks clung to his arm like a particularly affectionate barnacle. Her eyes pulsed pink, which he decided was either approval or mild embarrassment. The Queen, meanwhile, produced an object from her robes, a relic that glowed with a kind of soft, otherworldly shimmer. Kellen half expected it to hum a little tune, or at least play the national anthem. This, she intoned, is the Aurelian relic, a gift given only to those who have saved the royal bloodline, and with it, the right to claim a place among us. She extended the relic with the solemnity of a cosmic tax audit. Kellen scratched the back of his neck. Wait a second, are we talking honorary citizenship? Or... He trailed off as the Queen's expression grew even more regal, if that was possible. Are you offering me a marriage proposal? A murmur rippled through the crowd of attending Zephyran nobles, their skin flickering in a rainbow of colors like a cosmic disco. One of them emitted a sound suspiciously like a snicker. Kellen cleared his throat. Okay, that's, unexpected. He gave Princess Squeaks a sidelong glance. No offense, but I thought I was just the delivery guy. The Queen didn't blink. You saved my daughter from certain death. You are now bound by the ancient traditions of our people. The right of kinship is no small thing. Kellen felt the heat creeping up his neck. So, if I refuse, do I get vaporized or just politely escorted out of the star system? Princess Squeaks let out a giggle, a sound that sounded like a malfunctioning translator trying to laugh. Kellen couldn't help but grin. Well, at least someone's enjoying this. He shifted his weight, cradling the relic with exaggerated care. Look, Your Majesty, I'm just a grunt. I've been shot at more times than I can count, and I can't even program a coffee machine. I'm not exactly royal material. The Queen's eyes softened by a fraction of a parsec. You are humble. That is a quality rarely found among warriors. And yet the law is the law. She gestured to a priestess who approached carrying a data tablet that might have been older than the galaxy itself. Sign here, the priestess droned, to accept the right of kinship and all that it entails. Kellen glanced at Princess Squeaks, who watched him with those ever-shifting eyes. Well, he sighed, I always wanted a story to tell the grandkids. He took the stylus, the weight of destiny, and a million potential misunderstandings, settling on his shoulders. Guess I'm about to become the galaxy's worst son-in-law. Kellen had faced down plasma cannons, knife-wielding pirates, and an ex-girlfriend who'd weaponized her sense of sarcasm, but nothing had prepared him for Zephyrin wedding preparations. It was like being drafted into a cosmic game show, with every contestant more fluorescent than the last, and enough ceremonial steps to make an interplanetary tax code look straightforward. He stood in the grand hall, a space so big it felt like it had its own gravity, while a priestess draped him in ceremonial robes that smelled like burnt ozone and suspiciously like a malfunctioning air filter. The garment pulsed with embedded bioluminescence that shifted colors every time he moved. He'd tried to complain, but the priestess just stared at him like he'd asked her to juggle antimatter. Hold still, she'd barked. The robe must calibrate itself to your biorhythms. Kellen shifted again, the robe glowing an angry crimson. If it starts playing disco tunes, I'm out, he muttered. Princess Squeaks, who was now properly identified as Allura, though Kellen still preferred his nickname, flitted around him with the glee of a child in a zero-gravity candy store. She paused, eyes shifting to a curious shade of turquoise. You look interesting, she chirped. Interesting is better than dead, Kellen said, or at least that's what I'm telling myself. He tried to adjust the collar, which promptly tightened like a boa constrictor. This thing's got a mind of its own, Allura giggled. It's a living fabric. It adapts to your mood. Great, he deadpanned. So if I get nervous, it's going to start blinking like a faulty reactor core? Before she could answer, a court official with a face like a petrified fungus stepped forward, holding what looked like a ceremonial staff made from equal parts crystal, plasma coils, and overcompensation. It is time, the official intoned, voice so solemn it might have set off a warning beacon. The Queen awaits. Wonderful, Kellen sighed, because nothing says let's get hitched like being paraded in front of a crowd that's just waiting for me to trip over my own feet. He followed Allura through a labyrinth of corridors that smelled like antiseptic and old starships, emerging into a chamber filled with nobles whose skin flickered in colors that made his head spin. Some blinked politely, others made a noise that sounded suspiciously like a suppressed laugh. He shot them a grin. Try the buffet. I hear the starfish salad is to die for. Allura stifled a laugh. They're not used to humans with humor. Lucky for them, I'm not used to royalty with bioluminescent sarcasm, Kellen shot back. At the end of the hall, the Queen waited with that same look of cosmic authority that made him feel like a malfunctioning droid in need of a reboot. She raised the Aurelian relic, its glow casting rainbow shadows on the walls. Kellen of Earth, she began, each word echoing like a cosmic pronouncement. Do you accept the right of kinship? Kellen felt the weight of every set of glowing eyes in the room. He took a deep breath. Look, he said, I'm a guy who's good at pulling people out of trouble, telling bad jokes, and occasionally eating food that shouldn't exist. But I've never run away from a fight or a friend. If this is what it takes to keep your daughter safe, and maybe, just maybe, give this galaxy a fighting chance at peace, then yeah, I accept. A cheer rose, more like a symphony of bleeps, clicks, and alien laughter. Alura's eyes glowed a brilliant emerald. "Welcome to the family," she whispered. Kellen winked. "Just don't expect me to call you sis." The Star Hall thrummed with energy, a symphony of flickering lights, alien laughter, and the occasional hum of plasma coils doing something suspicious. Kellen stood at the center of it all, robe still glowing with all the subtlety of a malfunctioning beacon. He'd grown used to the strange stares, the bioluminescent gossip, and the occasional ceremonial offering of what might have been pickled space slugs. Alura, her eyes dancing with every color of the nebula, hovered at his side, grinning like she'd just discovered the meaning of life, and it was somehow hilarious. "Look at you," she teased, elbowing him gently. "So regal. You almost look like you belong here," he snorted. "Yeah, well, don't get used to it. I'm still the same guy who can't program a toaster without starting a small electrical fire." He adjusted the ceremonial relic hanging around his neck. It hummed softly, like it might break into song at any moment. "And this thing? Pretty sure it's the galaxy's most overpriced nightlight." Alura's laugh sounded like 1,000 wind chimes colliding in zero gravity. "You've changed more than you think," she said. "When we met, you couldn't even handle a jungle vine without complaining. Now look at you, practically Zypheran royalty." Kellen gave her a sidelong look. "Yeah, but I still draw the line at wearing ceremonial tentacles on my head." He leaned closer, dropping his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "You know, I actually thought I'd get out of this whole hero gig with just a medal. Maybe a pat on the back. Instead, I got a galactic family, a glowing rock that might or might not be sentient, and a front row seat to a political circus." He shook his head. "Life's got a weird sense of humor." The Queen approached, her headdress sparking gently like a restrained fireworks display. "Kellen of Earth," she began, her voice carrying the weight of centuries and a hint of pride. "You have fulfilled your duty, and more. You have not only saved my daughter, but proven that unity between our species is possible." She paused, her eyes softening. "And perhaps even necessary." He shifted uncomfortably, memories of battles, betrayals, and the jungle's relentless humidity flashing through his mind. "I'm no diplomat," he said. "I'm just a guy who couldn't leave a scared kid behind." He met her gaze. "But maybe that's what this galaxy needs. More people who can't leave each other behind." A hush fell. Even the holographic banners seemed to pause in their endless cycle of ceremonial patterns. Then the Queen extended her hand, and Kellen took it, feeling the spark of something more than duty, something like belonging. Alura beamed, her eyes blazing a brilliant green. "Looks like you're stuck with us now," she teased. Kellen grinned. "Yeah, well, someone's got to teach you all how to appreciate bad jokes and burnt coffee." He looked around at the gathered nobles, their bioluminescent skin reflecting every color of the cosmos. "And who knows, maybe we'll all figure out how to get along, or at least how to survive each other's cooking." Laughter rippled through the hall, the kind that felt like a sunrise after a long night. The tension that had hung over him since that first jungle rescue lifted, replaced by a sense of cosmic camaraderie he'd never expected. He'd come here a reluctant hero, just hoping to survive the next plasma bolt. Now he stood at the heart of an interstellar alliance he'd helped forge, one bad joke at a time. As the music rose and the Star Hall filled with the celebration of 100 worlds, Kellen caught Alura's hand and squeezed it, a silent promise that whatever came next, they'd face it together. After all, in a galaxy this weird, a little laughter went a long way. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.